Welcome to the deep dive. We take a huge stack of sources and, well, we boil it all down, giving you that intellectual shortcut to getting up to speed fast.
Yeah, we do the reading so you don't have to.
Exactly. And today, we are plumbing the depths of a creature that exists in this really extreme duality, feared global pest.
But also a life-saving scientific model, and in some places, actually worshipped.
It's quite the paradox.
It really is. When you dig into the source material on the genus Rattus, this animal is either causing ecological catastrophe and spreading plague.
Or it's helping us cure things like tuberculosis, mapping the human brain.
Mm-hmm.
It's wild.
So our mission today is really to unpack that impossible balance.
Right. We're getting into the surprising biology, some frankly staggering cognitive functions that make it so darn successful.
And yeah, the extreme things humans have done to either wipe it out or, well, elevate it.
We are going way beyond the usual sewer myths, though stick around because the truth about rats and plumbing is, well, it's something.
We've got sources covering everything: anatomy, history, its role as like one of the world's worst invasive species.
And its really unique cultural footprint across the globe. It's fascinating stuff.
Definitely.
Oh, and before we really dive in, just one piece of vocabulary gold for you. A group of rats. It's called a mischief.
A mischief. I love that.
We are definitely about to stir one up today.
Okay, let's unpack this then. When most people say rat, they generally mean, any biggish rodent with a long tail.
But the sources help us get more specific, thankfully.
Taxonomically, yeah. There are actually 56 known species in the genus Rattus. They all started out in Asia.
But the common names get confusing, right? Like the North American kangaroo rat. Not actually a true rat.
No, not Rattus, but the two species that really matter globally, the ones behind the reputation, the spread. Those are the big two old world rats.
That's the black rat, Rattus rattus.
And the brown rat, Rattus norvegicus. Those are the ones.
And these two are so successful for, well, one main reason, sheer adaptability. They are commensals.
That really is the key term here, commensals. Species that basically thrive by latching onto human structures, our homes, our food waste.
They live in our shadows, essentially.
Literally. And they're built for speed, reproduction-wise. A wild rat might only live about a year, maybe because of predators.
But they reach sexual maturity incredibly fast, like 6 weeks old.
As early as that, yeah. Social maturity takes a bit longer, maybe 5 or 6 months.
Okay, and we should probably cover the terminology just so you sound like you know your stuff.
Right. So male rats are bucks.
Unmated females are does.
And if they're pregnant or parenting, they're called dams.
Got it. And the babies.
Kittens or pups.
Kittens. Okay. So, if you see a mischief of bucks and does skittering about, now you know the lingo.
Precisely. Now, let's look at maybe one of the most misunderstood parts. The tail.
Ah, yes. The long, naked-looking tail.
What's fascinating here, according to the sources, is that this tail, it's not a weakness. It's actually a highly sophisticated multi-tool. It has like 3 primary survival functions.
Wait, hang on. You think of a squirrel's tail, it's all bushy, maybe for balance or warmth. Why would the rat evolve this bare thing if it wasn't some kind of flaw?
Well, that bareness is key to the first function, thermoregulation.
Heat control.
Exactly. The tail is packed with blood vessels really close to the surface. This allows for super efficient counter-current heat exchange. Think of it less like a tail and more like a car radiator.
Okay.
They can pump warm blood out to the tail. It cools down really fast, much better than trying to cool their whole body, especially when they're crammed into hot, tight spaces.
So it's like a built-in cooling system essential for their lifestyle. Makes sense.
Totally. Function number 2 is all about balance, proprioception.
That's knowing where your body is in space, right?
Spot on. The tail is dense with muscle and nerves. Even tiny movements act like a counterweight, like a little gyroscope. It lets them balance on incredibly narrow things, like wires or pipes.
That explains how they get around so easily in complex environments. Okay, what's the third function? You said it was gruesome.
Yeah, it's a bit grim, but brilliant from an evolutionary standpoint.
Yeah.
It's a defense mechanism.
Yeah.
The degloving response.
Degloving. Sounds bad.
It is. If a predator grabs the rat by the tail, it's obviously high pain, a offensive response.
Right.
The outer layer of skin on the tail can actually just slip off, detach completely.
No way.
Yes. The animal literally slides out of the predator's grasp. It's evolution basically saying, better lose some skin than your life.
Wow, that is intense. Okay, so physically, they're remarkable. But the sources also talk about their brains, right? We're not just talking basic instinct here.
Not at all. There was a really important study back in 2007 that found rats possess metacognition.
Metacognition, what exactly is that again?
It's the ability to think about your own thinking. Essentially, they know what they know, and critically, they know when they don't know something. They can assess their own uncertainty.
Whoa. That's that was thought to be mainly humans and some primates, right?
Pretty much exclusively, yeah. Finding it in rats was a big deal,
Yeah.
a real indicator of higher cognitive function, maybe even a form of consciousness.
And this intelligence isn't just a fluke of nature either. You mentioned breeding.
Right. Experiments going way back to the 1920s using things like T mazes, they clearly showed that learning ability was heritable. You could actually selectively breed rats to be better or worse maze solvers.
So you could breed for smartness.
In a sense, yes. And that intelligence, that trainability, is exactly why they became so important in human service, especially in the lab.
It's a classic white lab rat.
Usually a domesticated albino brown rat, yeah. They've been staple model organisms since around 1895.
But why the rat specifically? Is it just that they're easy to keep?
That's part of it, but it's more about anatomical and physiological similarity homology to humans. It's quite remarkable, actually.
Like what?
Well, for instance, their cardiovascular system, specifically the aortic arches, are structurally very similar to ours. So they're vital for studying heart function disease treatments. And their predictable learning patterns make them gold standard for psychological studies, reward pathways, addiction models, social behavior. You remember John B. Calhoun's behavioral sync experiments?
The overcrowding studies, yeah, incredibly influential and kind of terrifying.
All done with rats, illustrating the psychological effects of density.
We should probably pause here, though, and make a clear distinction. The lab rat, or the fancy rat people keep as pets, isn't the same beast as the one rummaging in the alley, right?
Oh, absolutely not. Huge difference. Domesticated rats, usually derived from the brown rat, have been bred for generations. For calmness, docility, they're much less likely to bite.
They tolerate crowding better, too, apparently.
Yes, and interestingly, selective breeding has actually resulted in them having physically smaller organs than their wild cousins, smaller brains, hearts, adrenal glands.
So they're genuinely different, physiologically and behaviorally.
Completely. They make safe pets, the sources are clear, they pose no more zoonotic disease risk than your average cat or dog. You even get specific breeds, like the Dumbo rat with the big low-set ears.
Cute. Okay, so good lab subjects, good pets, but you also mentioned them as workers.
That's where their incredible sense of smell comes in. It's phenomenal. Organizations like APOPO have capitalized on this.
What do?
They train African giant pouch rats, which are large but very intelligent for amazing tasks, detecting buried landmines. For one,
Rats detecting landmines. How?
by scent. They're light enough not to set off the mines, and they can pinpoint the explosives far faster and often more safely than humans with metal detectors.
That's incredible.
It gets better. They also train them to diagnose tuberculosis.
By smell?
Yes, by smelling patient sputum samples. They can screen hundreds of samples in the time it takes a lab tech to do maybe a few dozen, and with remarkable accuracy. It's a low-cost, highly effective diagnostic tool in resource-poor settings.
Wow. Talk about using their biology for good. But there's always the other side, isn't there? That commensal relationship means disease vectors, pests.
That's the flip side. They absolutely carry zoonotic pathogens, things like leptospira, hantavirus.
And the Black Death, the plague, that's always the big one linked to rats.
Historically, yes, via the tropical rat flea they carried. But interestingly, some recent studies we looked at suggest that rats and their fleas alone probably couldn't account for the sheer speed and scale of the Black Deaths spread across medieval Europe. The transmission dynamics might be more complex than just rats did it.
Huh. Okay, that's a nuance I hadn't heard.
Yeah.
But even setting aside the Black Death, their impact today, especially in cities, is undeniable, right? They are major pests.
Oh, absolutely. Opportunistic survivors, they cause huge food losses, especially in developing nations.
And in urban centers. Yeah,
Yeah.
Chicago, for example. The sources cite Orkin naming it the rattiest city in the U.S. multiple years running.
Rattiest city, what do they even do about that? It requires constant effort. Urban warfare, basically. Chicago has even used sterilized feral cats in some areas as a deterrent and, well, hunters.
Wow. Cats versus rats. And New York, the myth about a rat for every person.
That specific myth has been debunked, yeah. But anyone who's lived in or visited New York knows the rats there are bold. They're clever survivors, adapted to city life.
Okay, now for the bit you teased earlier, the plumbing. Please tell me it's not as bad as I'm imagining.
Well, the sources confirm it. Rats are excellent swimmers,
Right.
and driven by need or maybe just opportunity, they absolutely have the ability to swim up through sewer lines
Yeah.
and emerge inside buildings, through the toilet bowl.
Oh my God, that's horrifying. Okay, deep breaths, that adaptability is just wow.
It's staggering. But let's connect this back to the bigger ecological picture, because that same adaptability makes the rat one of the world's most destructive invasive species.
Especially the black rat, right? The ship rat.
Exactly. Rattus rattus, it's been carried on ships for centuries, colonizing almost every corner of the globe humans reached.
And the impact on native wildlife.
Devastating, particularly on islands.
Yeah.
The sources estimate they're responsible for maybe 40 to 60% of all known seabird and reptile extinctions.
40 to 60%, that's massive.
It is. Native island species often evolve without mammalian predators. They simply have no fear, no defense mechanisms. Rats arrive, and it's a massacre. They eat eggs, chicks, even adult animals.
So if they're basically everywhere humans are, how do you even begin to get rid of them? Is a rat-free world even possible?
Well, the main requirement seems to be a lack of us, or at least our structures. Antarctica is effectively rat-free outdoors. Why? It's too cold, and there are no permanent human settlements providing food and shelter.
Okay, so uninhabited frozen places are safe. What about inhabited areas?
It's incredibly difficult and expensive. There are major ongoing efforts, mostly on islands, called island restoration projects, places like South Georgia near Antarctica, or Howard X Island in the Aleutians. Multi-million-dollar campaigns to eradicate invasive rats and give the native ecology a chance to recover.
Using traps, poisons.
Highly targeted poisons. Yeah, often delivered by helicopter over vast areas. It's complex, controversial sometimes, but often the only way to save critically endangered species.
But here's where it gets really interesting, as the sources point out. There's one massive inhabited region that has somehow managed to stay officially rat-free.
Ah, you're talking about Alberta, Canada.
Exactly, the largest inhabited rat-free zone on Earth. How did they possibly manage that?
It's an absolutely unique story. Alberta was settled later than many places, and the brown rat, the main invader, didn't even reach its eastern border from Saskatchewan until 1950.
Okay, so they had a late start.
And the provincial government reacted immediately and with extreme prejudice. They implemented an incredibly aggressive zero-tolerance control policy right from day one.
You say aggressive. The sources mention methods that sounded less like pest control and more like, well, actual warfare.
Honestly, yeah. The early days were brutal. To wipe out any reported infestation, they used shotguns, they used bulldozers to destroy potential harborage, even high explosives and poison gas in burrows. They literally demolished barns and sheds if rats were found.
Good grief, they weren't messing around.
Not at all. They established a permanent rat control zone, about 600 kilometers long and 30 kilometers wide, along the eastern border. Anything that crossed it was hunted down.
And this worked. They maintain this today.
Astonishingly, yes. They quickly adopted the anticoagulant poison warfarin, which became available shortly after the program started, making control a bit less explosive. But they still have a dedicated rat patrol. They inspect farms, respond to sightings, maintain bait stations, and the official status holds. The number of permanent rat infestations in Alberta remains 0.
That's just incredible. A testament to just sheer political will and sustained effort, I guess.
Absolutely. But it highlights the level of fear and determination this one creature can inspire, which makes the cultural split even more bizarre.
Right, because you have that level of eradication effort in one place, and then you look at parts of Asia, and the rat is venerated.
The contrast is truly profound. In the Chinese zodiac, for instance, the rat is the very first of the 12 animals. It's associated with positive traits: intelligence, creativity, ambition, resourcefulness.
Okay, that's positive. But in India, it goes even further, right? The connection with Ganesha.
Yes, the elephant-headed deity Ganesha's traditional mount, or vahana, is a rat or a mouse.
Yeah.
And then you have the Karni Mata temple in Rajasthan.
The famous rat temple.
That's the one. Thousands of holy rats called Kabbas live there. They're believed to be reincarnated family members or destined to become sadhus, Hindu holy men. Devotees feed them milk and grain. Harming them is forbidden. Killing one means replacing it with a small statue made of solid gold or silver.
Wow, from total war in Alberta to sacred status in Rajasthan. It's hard to reconcile.
Now contrast that deep spiritual respect with the general view in Europe and the West. Overwhelmingly negative.
Yeah, largely cemented by the Black Death Association, I suppose.
Definitely a huge factor. The word rat itself is an insult. It's slang for a traitor, an informant to rat on someone.
And trade unions use those giant inflatable rats outside non-union work sites, right?
Exactly. symbolizing scab labor or unfair employers. The rat as a symbol of betrayal or undermining the group.
And in fiction, forget about it, mostly villains.
Almost universally.
Hmm.
Think Professor Ratigan in Disney's Great Mouse Detective, or the terrifying hordes in James Herbert's horror novel The Rats, or even their use as instruments of torture.
Right, like in Orwell's 1984 with Room 101, the ultimate fear.
Or Edgar Allan Poe's The Pit and the Pendulum. It's a deep-seated cultural fear. Even one of the oldest legends we have featuring them, the Pied Piper of Hamelin from the late 13th century.
Yeah, that's all about rats as an uncontrollable plague needing magic to be removed.
It really solidifies that ancient link. Rat equals pestilence.
So what does this all mean? We've covered biology, invasion, control, worship, fear. The rat seems to be this massive contradiction.
It really is. It's the adaptable ecological destroyer wiping out native species.
Yet it's also this indispensable biological subject, helping us understand everything from heart disease to, well, the nature of consciousness itself through metacognition studies.
It's almost like a mirror, reflecting our own needs and fears.
Yeah.
We see its intelligence as valuable when it serves us in the lab.
But we declare total war on that same intelligence when it threatens our resources or invades our spaces.
Its incredible success really boils down to its ability to live as our shadow, to exploit every structure we build, every scrap of food we waste. That commensal relationship is everything.
Their survival toolkit is just unmatched. That thermoregulating tail, the balance, the degloving escape trick, the fast breeding, the high intelligence.
Which kind of leaves us with a final provocative thought for you, the listener. Given how deeply embedded rats are as pests, yes, but also in science, maybe even indirectly in the economy, just by their sheer presence and the efforts to control them, what essential human activity globally could actually survive if we did achieve the Alberta dream everywhere, a completely rat-free planet? Could everything function just the same?
That's a really interesting question. Something to chew on, perhaps, the next time you hear a little scuttling sound in the walls.